Hi everybody, this is Summer with Done Naturally. Welcome. Today we are going to talk about the premature baby in the NICU and what your job is. Here we go. All right, well, this is something you did not prepare for. You are feeling very emotional. You are feeling vulnerable, overwhelmed, everyone knocking on the door every minute. You can't get a breath, and it's really hard to filter through all the information that's coming at you. And you're just worried. So, how do we stimulate your milk supply with a premature baby? And your baby could be 35 weeks. It might be more premature, might be 30 weeks, could be extremely premature where we're talking about 22 to 26 weeks or even 28 weeks. So, number one, we have to mimic what your baby would do if they were in the room with you and full term. We have to trick your body into thinking that your baby's full term. How do we do that? Pumping. I need you pumping with a hospital-grade breast pump. In the United States, typically that is the Medela Symphony breast pump. And that is the Jaguar of pumps. It is intended for exclusive pumping, which is what you'll be doing as long as your baby is in the NICU, and prematurity. Nothing else is better than that breast pump. So get that one. The hospital should provide that for you. And you'll want to use that once you go home as well. And many hospitals have programs that allow you to be able to bring that pump home with you. So how many times a day to pump? 8 to 10 times, 12 if you'd like, every 2 to 3 hours. 2 hours, 3 hours. Those are your numbers. I would like it if you would pump every 2 hours during daylight and every 3 hours at night. Do not go longer than 3 hours without pumping. We can't. When you go longer without pumping, that tells your body to not make the milk. And I know it's hard. I know waking up for those pumps totally sucks and you are exhausted, and sleeping through an alarm is very easy. And when you have medications on board after delivery or just recovering from delivery itself, no one wants to wake up. So I know it sucks. Set an alarm. Get it on your phone, recurring every single day, and get that every 2 hours during daylight in and every 3 hours at night in. And helpful, make the noise something obnoxious. Something that's not your normal alarm, that you're not used to. A fire truck, whatever to get you up. And you are gonna pump for 15 minutes on both sides. And here's a trick. If you don't get anything, which is normal in the first few days, don't freak out. It is okay. I know it can feel defeating and pointless when you pump and nothing happens, but it's not. You are essentially placing a request or an order for the milk to come. So those frequent pump sessions or manual hand expressions, which you can learn from a link I will be here from Stanford, or you can ask your lactation consultant or your nurse to show you how to do that. Any removal of milk that you're doing and stimulation tells your body to bring the big stuff in. It's, again, mimicking what the baby would do full term, which is in your room nursing incessantly. So we have to do that. So don't get discouraged if nothing comes out, or if just a drop comes out, or drops around the pump flange but nothing in the base of the cup. That's okay. What you can do is ask for a Q-tip, and you can soak all that breast milk up and then carry it to the baby in the NICU. And maybe just line it around the lips or the gums, kind of like chapstick, and they still get benefit. 1 drop of breast milk and colostrum has 1 million white blood cells in it. What? That's insane. And what that does for your baby is countless, really. But it lines their gut and protects them. Even that drop. So really, every drop counts. It really, really does. So you will be excited about those little bits that you get. Now, typically around 3 to 5 days is when you'll start to see more milk collecting in the cup, and it'll start slow. It might be that you collect 1 ml. It might be 0.5 ml. It might be 10 ml, and you kind of start seeing it increase and you get more and more excited. Sometimes women pump in the beginning and get a ton and then get nothing for a few days. That's okay too. It's a little backwards, so it's hard to, you kind of get used to that big amount and then you freak out when there's nothing. as opposed to getting nothing for a long time and then being excited about 1 ml. But just know that in those first few days, anything is great and it's okay to get nothing. Then you're going to notice your breast size change. And that's usually when we see that proliferation of your milk supply. So don't worry, just keep track, stay accountable, and get those pumps in. Do not miss them. If you miss one, it's not the end of the world, but just don't do it again. Do your best to stay on track. Don't get caught up in whatever happened and you slept through. Just move forward and try not to make that mistake again. So I'd also like to talk about one of the things that's important when we're with new preemies in the NICU is a big killer, a reality, a killer in the NICU is something called necrotizing enterocolitis. And that is something that every premature baby is at risk for. But when babies are breast milk fed, you extremely reduce the risk. So it's a huge protectant while you're in the NICU. Okay, so you're keeping track, you have an app, you are recording it on a piece of paper that they've given you, and you're staying accountable. And what you should do is add up what you're getting at the end of the day. In a whole 24-hour period, add up what'd you get. And the next day, add it up and keep track and see how that slow increase is happening. As I said, in the first few days, it might be 0 ml, it might be 5 ml in a day, and then day 5 hits. Now, over the first 2 weeks, that's when your milk supply is slowly building, and usually around that 2 to 3 week period is when a mother reaches her peak of volume. And a full supply for a premature mother, when we're counting every little bit and not breastfeeding, is anywhere between 750 to 1,000 ml in an entire day. That's a full volume. And with about 8 pumps a day, possibly 10, you're going to get more if you do more pumping. You might be collecting anywhere from 100 ml to 140 ml per session. And that's total between both breasts. 100 ml to 140 by the time you reach 2 to 3 weeks, not in the first week. So that can help you kind of, when you're adding everything up, judge where you are. Now there's a caveat to that. I have worked with many women in the NICU, and anecdotally I have women that I've worked with that have extremely premature infants with extremely low birth weight, started out maybe with baby under a pound. Very early in that pregnancy and that gestation was that baby, the baby was born. Those women I have seen that by the end of that 2 to 3 week period, when we typically have our full supply, they aren't there yet. And in working with them over months, I have seen that after maybe a month, 6 weeks, suddenly their supply reaches that full supply, which is pretty remarkable. And it makes sense for them that they needed a little bit more time than 2 to 3 weeks to build up to that full volume, because they started out so very early from full term. So if that's one of you, and you have a 22-weeker or you have a 24-weeker, and you, by that 2 to 3 week period, don't have a full supply, don't you give up hope. Okay, as long as you keep your pumping going and stay positive, see what happens. See if 6 weeks or 8 weeks in, your body starts to increase again. Anecdotally, I've seen it, so I would love to hear if that happened for you. Let's talk about how to get more milk. That's a big question in the NICU. Number 1, basics of breast milk is the more you take out, the more you get. It has nothing to do with what you eat. It has nothing to do with whether or not you're drinking enough water. Both of those videos and myths that I bust are above. Do you need to drink water? Of course. Do you need to eat? Of course. But pumping and milk removal is what makes more. So don't skip pumps. That's key. Another thing you can do is what's called hands-on pumping, and that is where you massage your breasts while you're pumping. Women notice 50% more collection from doing that. And when you start noticing hard spots around your breast, if you gently circular massage around those, that can help empty that milk out. You can, I'm gonna think of something right now, you can get milk ducts all the way up into your armpit, especially in that first week, and people get really freaked out about that. There is milk up there. It may not have a route to get out. After a few days, that swelling will go down, but it's nothing concerning. Don't worry about it. If that happens to you, you can massage it during pumping for sure, but definitely the ones around the classic breast tissue, massage those lumps while you're pumping. And even once engorgement goes away, that hands-on pumping will be a huge factor in collecting more milk. Another thing you can do is what I call blind pumping. And that is where you do not look while you are pumping. And that video is above also. Not looking means you're not stressed. Now, if looking at your pumping volume while you're pumping makes you feel good, then I want you to look. But for most NICU moms, when they're pumping, they're stressed out. And they're either telling themselves like, there's something wrong with me, what's wrong with my boob, I hate this, it sucks so bad, why isn't there more? So that blind pumping really gets you out of that mental space and just thinking positive thoughts. And then at the end of the pump session, you can look. That's a big one. Another thing that helps is bedside pumping. And that is where you roll that breast pump over into the NICU and you pump next to the baby. Most hospitals are going to have a breast pump right next to your baby. So plan your pumpings to be during care times with the baby. Plan for it to be immediately after a care time, possibly even after you've done some skin to skin with baby, or you've done hand care, hand containment. All of your hormones are higher when you're with the baby. You feel more rested. So those hormones can really help your milk making where you get more. So plan that time for you and your baby. And remember, milk supply slowly builds, okay? Especially in preemie world. So celebrate every little step you're doing. When you're pumping, let's talk about comfort. You need to be in the right flange. And that means one of your lactation consultants, one of the nurses, they need to watch you pump. That is the only way you know if it's the correct fit. And on top of that, it shouldn't hurt, okay? And you should be able to have the pressure pretty high and it still not hurt. You can do moist seal pumping, which that video is above, and that can help lubricate everything moving in and out. You should see a lot of spray through the pores of the nipple. And the pores are on the face of the nipple. Those are all the little holes. And that's where the milk comes out. And women usually have about 7 to 9 of those. And when you're pumping, you see the milk kind of hitting the pump tunnel on the flange and going through. And the more spray you see, the better. But someone needs to watch you because that pump fit is extremely important. At some point, if your goal is to breastfeed, you are going to work on learning to breastfeed and slowly transition away from that exclusive pumping to breastfeeding. That video on learning to breastfeed is above also. And with premature babies, it's a different kind of learning than we're talking about with full-term babies. Usually around that 32-week mark is when you can begin working on breastfeeding, and they get more functional around 36 weeks. But skin to skin hopefully can start as soon as possible. That also depends on your baby's situation. It's a long road, right? You're gonna have a lot of ups and downs. It's like a roller coaster of emotions. It's a lot to take in. And I'm very proud of the women that I've worked with over all the years in the NICU and seeing their babies walk in and doing amazing things and remembering where they started. So get into a support group if you can. Make sure you have a supportive lactation consultant. Ask any question that pops into your mind. And key, pump, 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 pump. Pump like a crazy person. It's all you're gonna be doing. It's a lot of work, but it really, really pays off. That's all I have. Congratulations on your baby, and I wish you all the best in your NICU world. Thanks, guys. Give me a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe, and I'll see you in another one. Have a good day. Bye, guys.